DJ's True Crime 2026, turn the lights down low, let the darkness mix. Midnight whispers on an old back road. Every secret's got a story untold. Cold case files and a smoking gun. Truth runs deep where the shadows run. Footsteps echo in an empty hall. Somebody's watching from behind the wall. Red string tied to a photograph. Broken clocks in a shattered past. Every clue's just one more fix. Welcome to 2026. DJ's True Crime 2026. Twisted tales and dangerous tricks. Every lie's got a heavy price. Roll the tape, let's roll the dice. Heartbeat racing, ticking ticks. Truth cuts deep like sharpened sticks. If you're brave, come take your fix. DJ's True Crime 2026. Headlines screaming in black and white. City sirens in the dead of night. Coffee cold on a cluttered desk. One more name on the suspect list. Footprints fade in the falling rain. Every witness recalls the same. A fleeting face, a shadowed mix. Another mystery in 26. Maps on the wall with pins stuck in. Where do we start and where's it end? Truth don't sleep and neither do I. Chasing ghosts that never die. DJ's True Crime 2026. Secrets buried in the politics. Truth is sharper than it looks. Hidden deep between the books. Turn it up, let the story stick. Every twist hits hard and quick. Stay tuned for the final fix. DJ's True Crime 2026. In the midnight city where the neon lights glow. DJ's on the mic and the whole world knows. From the streets to the sky where the blue flames fly. We ride together strong, never asking why. Hear the beat of the drums like a dragon's roar. Every step we take makes the crowd want more. Through the fire in the night, we stand as one. When the music hits hard, that's when we run. We are DJ's Blue Dragon Squad. Rising through the night, breathing blue fire, burning bright in the light. Hear the crowd scream loud when the bass drops hard. Stand up, stand proud for the Blue Dragon Squad. And the sound where the legends grow. Every beat we drop makes the whole place glow. From the underground vibes to the main stage flame. Blue dragons flying high in the game. Hear the thunder roll when the speakers pound. Feel the energy shaking the ground. Every soul in the room feels the spark ignite. Blue dragons rising in the night. We are DJ's Blue Dragon Squad. Rising through the night, breathing blue fire, burning bright in the light. Hear the crowd scream loud when the bass drops hard. Stand up, stand proud for the Blue Dragon Squad. Dragon Squad. No fear, no change, just the rhythm we ride. Blue flames in our hearts, got the squad by our side. When the night falls down and the music's loud, you'll hear the roar of the dragon crowd. We are DJ's Blue Dragon Squad. Hear the legend call. Blue fire rising as the shadows fall. Hands in the air while the beat hits hard. Forever we ride. Blue Dragon Squad.
Sweet boy Sebastian, where are you? The stars stayed up all night waiting too. The next morning your mama came up. You weren't there, your room was empty. Sweet boy Sebastian, where'd you go? Your room was still left the same as it was. The whole world has been searching, but there was no evidence of where you went. The wind whistles softly in the night and morning. It hums your name and hums the song of I am the tiger. It's so quiet without your laughter and smile. Life gets harder and harder every day. Sweet boy Sebastian, where have you gone? Everyone has searched through forests and water and near your house with no sighting or sin. If you're hiding, come out and come back. Sebastian, your dad is worried, and so is the whole wide world. Sebastian, where are you? Please show us signs wherever you may be. We are your army, sweet boy Sebastian, so please come home. So please.
Hello. Can everyone hear me? Jacob, I'm inviting you up on panel. And then we will get started. Jacob, there you go. Okay, good. You guys can hear me. Jacob Sawyer, where are you? Okay, I'm gonna start until Jacob gets up. There you are. Okay, good, you're on.
Hello, everyone. Hello, DJ.
Hello, Jacob. Okay, we're gonna start. We're gonna pick up where we left off.
Not only evidence, but narrative risk.
Oh, goodness. I hate
Risk.
pauses.
Every action is scrutinized through the lens of perceived alignment or opposition. The distinction between negligence and culpability becomes critical here. Negligence, as Seth frames it, suggests a failure of supervision or judgment. It does not require an allegation of direct involvement in a crime, but in public perception, that distinction rarely holds. Responsibility implies causation. Causation implies guilt. The slope is steep. What makes this moment particularly consequential is that Seth does not present new evidence to support the shift. The facts,
Which there still isn't any evidence. Any new evidence. So, where is Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers? That is my question. How come nothing is moving along any faster?
on the table remain the same: the disappearance timeline, the anomalies at the house, the halted conclusion drawn from those facts. The move from inference to attribution is not driven by discovery, it is driven by exhaustion. From an investigative lens, that exhaustion is understandable but dangerous. Long-running uncertainty pressures participants to resolve ambiguity. When institutions cannot provide resolution, individuals often supply their own. Seth's accusation can be read as an attempt to force clarity where none has been offered. The problem is that forced clarity can harden prematurely. Once an accusation is public, retreat is interpreted as reversal, not caution. The media does not easily accommodate recalibration. This is why this phase is a point of no return. Not because Seth cannot change his view, but because the narrative has already absorbed it. There is also a legal asymmetry at play. Seth, as a private individual.
No, Ellie needs to arrest those two and put them in separate rooms and start asking questions, Mike. Yes, Brown Eyes, that's my opinion as well, is they should be arresting Katie and Chris and asking loads of questions and get the truth out of them. Ask them hard questions, in fact.
Speaking publicly assumes personal risk. The named party, constrained by counsel or investigation, may not respond. The imbalance favors the accuser in the short term and complicates the investigative environment in the long term. This does not invalidate Seth's concerns. It contextualizes their impact. Importantly, Seth's language still stops short of alleging a specific crime. He does not describe a mechanism, a motive, or an act. He names responsibility without method. This ambiguity is both protective and corrosive. It avoids explicit defamation while inviting inference. The space between those two outcomes is where public speculation thrives. From the standpoint of investigative value, this moment is decisive because it transforms the case into a contested narrative. Prior phases involved friction with process. This phase introduces friction between people. Once that occurs,
Which there's lots of friction between, there's lots of friction, especially with Chris and Katie not doing anything about this. Chris and Katie need to get off their high horse, and the fact that KP just came out from hiding this year and all of a sudden did an interview saying, "Oh, I'm going to keep on searching until my last breath." She hasn't even been searching, in my opinion, and allegedly. So, until her last breath, my butt. That is just BS. That is just some BS right there. She has not been searching worth a crap, in my opinion. She's been sitting down at home, probably relaxing, and also going out getting her nails done like a princess when she ain't. Ugh. In my opinion, if she is so innocent and nothing to hide, why plead the fifth? Yeah, exactly, Brown Eyes. That's what I'm wondering too.
Investigation must contend with competing truths, not just missing facts. This is also the phase where Seth's credibility becomes bifurcated. To some, his willingness to speak plainly signals courage. To others, it signals recklessness. Neither interpretation is grounded in new evidence. Both are grounded in tone. That polarization further entrenches positions and reduces the space for neutral analysis. The irreversibility of this shift lies in its visibility. A question can be forgotten. An accusation is remembered. Even if later evidence contradicts it, the initial claim remains part of the record. This is why investigative professionals caution against public attribution absent corroboration. The cost is not only legal, it is epistemic. In moving from questions to accusations, Seth Rogers alters the terrain of the case. He does not do so by introducing proof, but by changing the burden of explanation. From this point forward, silence is no longer neutral. Process is no longer presumed. Every action or inaction is read as confirmation or avoidance. This is the point where media logic overtakes investigative logic. The case is no longer driven solely by what can be established, but by what has been asserted. Whether that assertion ultimately aligns with evidence is a question for the future. What is certain is that once responsibility is named publicly, the path back to purely procedural critique is closed. This is why Part 5 is not just another chapter, it is a threshold. After this moment, the story cannot return to its earlier shape. The questions that once defined the case are replaced by claims that demand answers not from the system alone, but from individuals now placed under the weight of public responsibility. This phase of the case introduces material unlike anything that came before it. Until now, the narrative has revolved around present-day actions, a disappearance, a search, procedural decisions, and public statements. In this chapter, Seth Rogers reaches backward in time and places prior allegations into the foreground. The effect is immediate and destabilizing. The case is no longer confined to what happened on one night. It becomes entangled with claims about a past that, according to Seth, carries relevance to the present. It is essential to establish boundaries at the outset. Everything described in this section originates from Seth's statements. No independent documentation has been presented in the material.
I'm gonna pause there for a minute. Which Seth's statements is pretty spot on. Seth, I feel like, in my opinion, Seth is the only one that is telling the truth. That's what I think. He has nothing to hide. So they should let him off, and let him off easy. And they should be holding, law enforcement should be holding Chris and Katie accountable for their actions, in my opinion. Because allegedly, and in my opinion, they did do something with Sebastian. And once we find out, I don't want to know what I'm scared to find out what they did to Sebastian. That's one thing that is scaring me.
Materials you provided to confirm or refute these claims. Some elements are described as having involved authorities. Others are asserted without records shown. The distinction between alleged, unverified, and documented is therefore not semantic, it is foundational. Seth alleges that, while living in California.
Do you mean LE is corrupted, or like everything there is corrupted?
Sebastian was involved in a serious incident involving inappropriate conduct with another child several years earlier. He describes the incident using explicit language and states that it occurred in the mother's residence. According to Seth, Child Protective Services and a local sheriff's department were involved at the time. He further claims that no prosecution occurred because of the ages involved, and that the other child's identifying information was withheld from him. These statements, as presented, fall into the category of alleged past inappropriate conduct involving a minor. Seth asserts institutional involvement, but no case numbers, formal reports, or third-party confirmations appear in the record you provided.
In my opinion, I have a gut feeling they have him hidden in another state. Yes, LE is correct. Exactly. Or, in my opinion, he could be anywhere in this world for all we know. Like, what if he ended up in Canada or some, in my opinion, some foreign country? Like, we don't know for sure. It's scary. The fact that it's been over 2 years already is very strange.
That absence does not invalidate the claim. It places it within a specific evidentiary category. The allegation exists because it has been publicly stated by a parent, but its factual status remains unverified within the available materials. Seth also references additional welfare checks. He claims that at another point he requested a welfare check due to concerns that Sebastian was in proximity to a registered offender. Again, this is an allegation grounded in Seth's account. He states that the individual had a criminal history and that he believed the environment posed a risk. As with the earlier allegation, no independent confirmation is included in the provided documents. From an investigative perspective, these claims introduce a second axis of analysis, not what happened, But what history is being invoked to explain what happened? The question is not whether the past...
Yeah, my heart is breaking for Seth too. Seth needs his son back. Seth wants his son back. So, Chris and Katie, where is Sebastian? Just come out and tell the truth. And if you don't come out and tell the truth, then in my opinion and allegedly, Ellie will find out sooner or later that you guys lied. Just saying.
Allegations are true or false. The question is how they function within the current narrative. Seth frames these past events as establishing a pattern of risk and negligence. In his telling, they contextualize his later statement that the mother is responsible, at least through negligence. This is a logical construction. If prior harm occurred under similar supervision, then present harm becomes more plausible. The structure is coherent. The evidentiary status is not. This is where the distinction between fact, record, and memory becomes critical. A fact is something that can be independently verified. A record is documentation created contemporaneously by an institution. A memory is an account shaped by perspective, time, and emotion. Seth's statements occupy all three spaces simultaneously, and that overlap is precisely what makes this section so volatile. If the alleged incident occurred as described and was formally documented by authorities, it would constitute relevant background information. It would speak to prior interventions, risk evaluations, and protective decisions made at the time. If, however, the events are remembered inaccurately, incompletely, or lack supporting documentation, their public introduction carries significant risk, not only for individuals named or implied, but for the integrity of the investigation itself. This is why bringing past allegations into an active missing person case is a double-edged act. On one side, it can surface overlooked patterns. On the other, it can weaponize memory. Once public, such allegations reshape how every present-day fact is interpreted. Neutral details acquire ominous undertones. Silence becomes suggestive. Absence of confirmation is read as concealment. From a legal standpoint, the risks are substantial. Allegations involving serious misconduct against a minor are among the most damaging claims that can be made publicly. Even when substantiated, they require careful handling to avoid re-traumatization and defamation. When unverified, their impact can far exceed their evidentiary value. The media environment does not pause to distinguish categories or levels of proof. It amplifies. Seth appears aware of this tension, but proceeds nonetheless. His justification is implicit. These are not new accusations. They are part of a history he believes was inadequately addressed. By introducing them, he seeks to explain why he distrusts assurances and why he perceives negligence as a through line rather than an isolated failure. The investigative value of this move lies in what...
Which, in my opinion, Seth is not the failure here. It's Chris and Katie that are the failure. So, let Seth off the hook, Ellie. In my opinion, and allegedly. Let Seth off the hook. Let him free.
What it reveals about motivation and framing. Seth is no longer arguing solely from the present. He is constructing a longitudinal narrative. That narrative suggests that the disappearance cannot be understood without acknowledging earlier decisions and environments. Whether investigators accept that premise is unknown. What is clear is that the public will. However, the absence of corroboration creates an evidentiary asymmetry. The accused parties are constrained in their ability to respond. Institutions' name may be bound by confidentiality laws. Records, if they exist, may be sealed. In that silence, the allegation stands unopposed not because it is proven, but because it is unanswerable in public. This is why the term weaponized memory is not hyperbole. Memory becomes weaponized when it is deployed not merely to recall, but to compel interpretation. Seth's recounting of a prior alleged incident does not sit neutrally alongside present facts. It presses upon them, narrowing how those facts are read and implicitly demanding a conclusion.
And there's lots of red flags in this case of Sebastian's. Like, where else haven't they looked? That is my question as well. Where else have law enforcement did not look? They need to look in other spots, I think. In my opinion, if they have not checked Chris's parents' place, maybe they should check there, in my opinion.
Investigators, this is a complicating factor. They must now consider whether the past allegations are relevant leads, contextual background, or distractions that risk contaminating witness testimony. Each option carries cost. Ignoring the claims may appear negligent. Pursuing them may divert resources. Addressing them publicly may be impossible. The emotional weight of these allegations also changes how Seth himself is perceived. Some will view his disclosure as courageous transparency. Others will view it as strategic escalation. Both interpretations can coexist without resolution because the underlying facts remain inaccessible. It is critical to note what Seth does not provide in this phase. He does not produce documents. He does not cite dates, case numbers, or names. He does not claim that these past events directly caused the disappearance. He positions them as context, not proof. That restraint matters, but it does not neutralize impact. From a cold investigative standpoint, the safest classification of this material is as follows: alleged past incidents with claimed institutional involvement, unverified within the present record, introduced publicly to contextualize current accusations of negligence. Anything beyond that would exceed the available evidence. This is the most sensitive section of the case because it collapses temporal distance. The past is no longer background, it is active. It shapes perception, expectation, and judgment. Once introduced, it cannot be retracted without consequence. The cost of this move is not abstract. It alters how the case will be remembered, regardless of outcome. If Sebastian is found, and the past allegations are substantiated, their early disclosure may be seen as prescient. If the allegations are disproven or irrelevant, their introduction may be seen as reckless. In neither scenario does the narrative revert to its earlier, narrower scope. This is why Part 6 stands apart from the others. It is not about searching, communication, or alignment. It is about the ethics of disclosure under uncertainty. It is about how far back a narrative can reach before it becomes unmoored from verifiable ground. For the investigation, this material is radioactive. It may contain truth. It may contain distortion. It may contain both. Handling it requires discipline that public discourse rarely affords. Yet once spoken, it must be accounted for. In raising these allegations, Seth Rogers irrevocably expands the frame of the case. He does so without proof presented, and without emotional restraint, but also without embellishment. The statements are blunt, not theatrical. Their power lies in what they imply, not what they demonstrate. This is the section where analysis must remain cold, because emotion obscures classification. The past allegations exist as claims, not conclusions. Their relevance is unresolved. Their impact is undeniable. And their presence marks another point, beyond which the case cannot return to a simpler form.
Which I think they need more information. They need someone, in my opinion, someone has information somewhere that they're not letting out. Chris and Katie need to be held accountable for sure, and go and get Sebastian wherever they put him.
There is one moment in the public record where Seth Rogers speaks without mediation, without compression, and without visible narrative control. No anchors steer the conversation. No spokesperson filters language. No prepared structure shapes the flow. For the first and only time, Seth speaks at length in a live setting, responding in real time, moving freely between observation, memory, and uncertainty. What emerges is not a polished account, but a dense cluster of raw details, some previously hinted at, others entirely new. This moment matters because it exposes
that
the case
matters
in
is
its least
that
processed form. Seth is
you
no
guys
longer
are here right
selecting
now.
which
Whoever's
elements
in
to
the bushes,
emphasize for
maybe some
clarity
of
or
them don't want
strategy.
to be in chat.
He is transmitting what he knows,
But
as he knows it, with minimal restraint. For investigators and analysts, such unfiltered accounts
you know
are
what?
uniquely valuable and
I'm
uniquely
so happy
dangerous.
for the ones who
Seth
are in
begins by
chat,
situating himself
especially my
operationally rather than
moderators.
emotionally. He describes his daily routine traveling across cities, distributing flyers, coordinating visibility efforts, tracking where information has circulated. The scale is notable. This is not symbolic searching, it is logistical. He presents himself not as a grieving parent awaiting updates, but as an active node within a parallel effort to keep the case from stagnating. From there, Seth introduces a detail that had not previously been articulated with specificity: the involvement of K9 units and the resulting scent trail. According to his account, a dog tracked Sebastian's scent from the home to a construction site. The trail, he says, ended there. He does not interpret this endpoint. He does not assign meaning. He simply reports sequence detection, movement, termination. This specificity alters the terrain of the case. Until this point, searches were discussed in general terms, areas covered, efforts expanded or halted. The introduction of a precise termination point
I'm okay with
transforms
it.
abstraction into geography. A construction site is not just a place, it is a variable environment. Vehicles, workers, materials, and shifting ground conditions complicate interpretation. Seth does not elaborate on these factors. He does not need to. The mere mention introduces complexity. Crucially, Seth emphasizes that he was not briefed on the details of the K9 work. He explains that investigators chose not to include him in that aspect of the investigation, citing his emotional proximity. He does not dispute the reasoning. He repeats it. The phrase he uses is stark: "They don't include me." It is not shouted. It is stated as fact. This exclusion is not presented as hostility. It is presented as protocol. Yet its effect is cumulative. Seth understands why investigators limit access. What he cannot reconcile is the informational vacuum that follows. He knows something happened. He knows a trail existed. He knows where it ended. He does not know what that means, or whether it was pursued further. The tension between inclusion and exclusion becomes a recurring theme in his account. Seth describes being allowed, indeed required, to cooperate, while simultaneously being kept at arm's length from interpretation. He can search, but under conditions. He can speak, but without context. He is both participant and outsider. Another procedural detail emerges here with unusual clarity. Seth explains that his own movements, while searching, must be reported to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. The stated rationale is safety and accountability. If something happens to him, investigators need to know where he was last located. On its face, this is reasonable. In practice, it underscores the asymmetry of control. Seth is monitored, but not informed. This requirement reframes his role. He is not operating independently in a legal sense. His actions are tracked. Yet the information flow remains one-directional. He provides data. He receives little. The imbalance deepens his frustration and fuels his openness. Seth also revisits the issue of phone checks, expanding on earlier references. He reiterates that his phone was examined early to confirm his location and communications. Again, this is not framed defensively. It is framed as evidence of transparency. By repeating this detail, Seth reinforces his positioning as cleared and cooperative, even as he grows increasingly vocal. The absence of narrative control in this moment allows contradictions to surface without resolution. Seth speculates cautiously, then withdraws. He acknowledges what he does not know. He oscillates between factual recounting and inferred possibility. This oscillation is not strategic, it is spontaneous. That spontaneity is what makes the material both compelling and unstable. From an investigative standpoint, this account represents the rawest data set associated with Seth's public statements. It includes operational details, procedural constraints, and partial insights into investigative activity. None of it is contextualized by law enforcement. None of it is corroborated in real time. The responsibility for interpretation falls entirely on the listener. This is where risk enters. Raw details, once public, cannot be contained. A scent trail ending at a construction site invites speculation. Without explanation, it becomes a canvas for inference. Some will see opportunity. Others will see implication. few will see uncertainty. The conflict here is not between Seth and investigators, but between transparency and control. Seth's impulse is disclosure. Investigators' impulse is containment. Both are rational. In this unfiltered moment, disclosure temporarily overrides containment. Seth's repeated emphasis on exclusion serves a dual function. It explains gaps in his knowledge, and it justifies his openness. If he is not being briefed, he feels compelled to share what he has. Silence, in his view, benefits no one. That logic aligns with public engagement, but clashes with investigative discipline. The absence of a script reveals how much Seth is carrying simultaneously. He tracks logistics, media exposure, investigative boundaries, and personal uncertainty in a single stream of consciousness. There is no clean separation between fact and frustration. This does not discredit his account. It contextualizes it. For analysts, the value of this moment lies in identifying verification targets. The construction site, the nature of the K-9 deployment, the reasons for exclusion, the protocols governing family movement.
I'm going to pause there for a minute. So, yes, Seth is hurting. Seth is cooperating, fully cooperating. And in my opinion, lots of people are trying to put the blame on Seth instead of Chris and Katie, in my opinion. Which lots of people need to stop putting the blame on Seth. He's trying to find his son the best way he can. He has no idea where Sebastian is because he was at work. He was still in uniform when he got the call to go over to Chris and Katie's house when Sebastian went missing. And the last person that Sebastian was seen with was with his mom, Katie Proudfoot. So, where is all of the... Why is there no new information anywhere? In my opinion, Ellie needs to get their act together and look even harder.
Each element is a lead, not a conclusion. The danger lies in overweighting any single detail. Without corroboration, none of these points can bear the interpretive load the public may place on them. Yet once spoken, they shape perception regardless. This is the paradox of unfiltered disclosure. It democratizes information while destabilizing accuracy. It invites participation while undermining coherence. For a case already fractured by misalignment, it accelerates divergence. What emerges in this phase is not clarity, but exposure. Seth exposes the limits of his access, the scope of his activity, and the fragments of information he has been allowed to glimpse. In doing so, he exposes the investigative process itself, its boundaries, its silences, its asymmetries. This makes the material invaluable for understanding the dynamics of the case. It also makes it volatile. Every detail demands verification. Every omission invites interpretation. The margin for error narrows. As a source, this moment must be treated with discipline. It is neither narrative nor evidence in the formal sense. It is transmission. It reveals what one actor knows, what he does not know, and how he navigates the space between. In this unfiltered account, Seth Rogers is not persuading, accusing, or defending. He is reporting imperfectly, incompletely, and in real time. That is precisely why this segment carries the highest informational yield and the highest potential for distortion. From here forward, the investigation must contend not only with facts on the ground, but with facts in circulation, facts that arrived without context, but cannot be.
And as well, for those in the bushes, watching from the bushes, please click the thumbs up, and if you haven't, like and subscribe as well, and to get the YouTube algorithm moving. And also, thank you to my subscribers and my moderators for supporting me. Now let's finish off this video.
Ignored. Across the entire public record examined so far, one conclusion remains stable: there is no official hypothesis naming Seth Rogers as a suspect. Not implicitly, not procedurally, not rhetorically. This is not a claim made by Seth. It is a condition of the record itself. Law enforcement never identified him as a person of interest. No agency suggested his involvement. No warrant, affidavit, or public statement placed him within a zone of criminal suspicion. That absence is not accidental. It is the product of early verification and sustained positioning. The reasons are straightforward. Seth did not reside at the home where Sebastian disappeared. His whereabouts during the critical window were documented through employment. His phone was checked. His account was verified. From the perspective of investigative triage, where proximity, access, and opportunity often determine initial focus, Seth did not meet the threshold for suspicion. The system moved past him quickly. That decision matters because it shaped everything that followed. Once a parent is ruled out early, investigators recalibrate resources toward other avenues. Once a parent is not a suspect, their statements are received as contextual rather than defensive. Seth's early role benefited from that posture. He spoke from outside the perimeter of suspicion, not within it. And yet, over time, Seth became the most influential figure in the public narrative of the case. Not because investigators elevated him, but because absence created space. Where official communication narrowed, Seth's voice expanded. Where explanations were withheld, his interpretations filled the gap. The paradox is central to understanding this case. The man who was never a suspect became the most powerful force shaping how the case was understood. This influence did not arise from authority granted by law enforcement. It arose from persistence. Seth appeared repeatedly, consistently, and insistently. He returned to the same anomalies. He highlighted the same procedural breaks. He articulated dissatisfaction without retreating. Over time, those repetitions became a frame. The audience learned to see the case through his emphasis. Narrative power, however, is not neutral. It carries consequences independent of intent. By defining what matters: shoes, a phone, halted searches, exclusion, Seth constrained the range of explanations the public considered plausible. This can be beneficial when it keeps attention on overlooked details. It can also be limiting when it hardens assumptions prematurely. The pressure Seth applied to the system followed a similar pattern. He did not accuse individual officers of wrongdoing. He challenged process. He questioned alignment. He asked whether the investigation was closer to resolution than it had been at the start. These questions, repeated publicly, exerted institutional pressure. Agencies were forced to respond not always with answers, but with posture. Silence became strategic. Communication tightened. This tightening had predictable effects. Investigators, faced with a case under scrutiny, became more guarded. Families, already excluded from interpretive loops, felt further distanced. The space between official action and public understanding widened. Into that space flowed speculation, interpretation, and competing narratives. Seth's role in this dynamic is neither purely constructive nor purely destructive. It is catalytic. His actions accelerated processes that might otherwise have unfolded slowly or quietly. Media attention increased. Public awareness remained high. Tips continued to flow. At the same time, the environment grew more volatile. Allegations, especially those involving past harm, introduced risks that could not be easily mitigated. The absence of suspicion toward Seth amplified this effect. Because he was not defending himself against allegations, his statements carried an assumption of credibility. Audiences are conditioned to distrust suspects and empathize with cleared parents. That conditioning granted Seth a platform that would not have been available had his status been ambiguous. His words were not filtered through skepticism. They were filtered through trust. This trust magnified impact. When Seth spoke, his framing mattered more than it otherwise might have. When he escalated from questions to accusations, the shift reverberated. When he disclosed unfiltered details, they circulated without the counterweight of official context. The system could not easily correct the narrative without appearing reactive or defensive. From an investigative standpoint, this creates a dilemma. Public pressure can revive stalled cases. It can also distort them. Witnesses may come forward or withdraw. Tips may increase or converge around a single theory. Investigators must weigh responsiveness against integrity, transparency against contamination. Seth's independence complicated this calculus. He was not an antagonist, but he was not controllable. He operated parallel to the system, intersecting with it, but not subsumed by it. That parallelism can widen the investigative aperture by surfacing new information. It can also narrow it by anchoring attention to specific interpretations. The key insight is this: Seth's lack of suspect status did not neutralize his influence, it amplified it. He was free to speak without legal constraint. He was free to criticize without self-implication. He was free to frame without rebuttal. Those freedoms shaped the case as much as any official action. Why does this matter? Because missing person investigations are not conducted in a vacuum. They unfold within ecosystems of information, trust, and perception. When a central figure occupies a position of moral authority without procedural authority, the balance shifts. Decisions made by institutions are judged against narratives shaped elsewhere. Alignment becomes harder to maintain. This does not mean Seth was wrong to speak. It means that speech itself became an intervention.
We're almost done with this video, but yes, in my opinion, Seth does need more people to help. Law enforcement is not doing anything about it, in my opinion. They are very corrupted. I feel they need to hire better law enforcement to help out with this case, to get Sebastian home quickly and safely, wherever he may be.
Each appearance altered incentives, expectations, and interpretations. The investigation had to account not only for evidence, but for an audience increasingly oriented by a single voice. The record, taken as a whole, supports a clear conclusion: Seth Rogers was never a suspect. It also supports a more complex observation: he became the axis around which the case turned. Not because he committed an act, but because he narrated one. The distinction is critical. Guilt and influence are not the same. Innocence does not equate to irrelevance. In this case, the absence of suspicion enabled a different kind of power, one that operates through attention rather than authority. As the case continues, the consequences of that power remain unresolved. It may lead to breakthroughs. It may entrench divisions. It may do both. What can be said is that the investigative landscape has been permanently altered by the presence of a father who was never a suspect, yet never silent. The final question, then, is not about blame. It is about effect. Not about what Seth did in the past, but about what his role has done to the present trajectory of the case. When a father is not a suspect, but becomes the loudest force in the case, does that bring the truth closer or push it further away?
Okay, we're going to watch one more video, and then I'm going to try to find a short one so we're not... Let's watch this one. Oh no, never mind. There's not really any short videos. Let's watch this one.
The Hyundai Venue is Canada's most price-competitive subcompact.
Are positive leads in the Sebastian Rogers case. Many are believing that law enforcement dropped the ball on this case from day one. Those responsible for Sebastian's disappearance are still out there, free as can be. I don't for 1 second believe that Sebastian was abducted, or that he ran away on his own free will. Chris and Katie Proudfoot were recently seen at a reptile show, purchasing a $500 lizard. A lot of people were appalled that they continue going out, doing everything except search and advocate for their missing son. A couple of days ago, Chris's actions were cast in the spotlight again, as he appeared on a YouTube channel, dressed as a fake sheriff, even going as far as to have handcuffs on his belt. At Night Investigates released a statement that reads, "At Night denounces the latest reprehensible actions of Christopher Proudfoot, who reportedly dressed as a fake sheriff in a shameless overnight mockery, that further exposes his utter contempt for the gravity of Sebastian Rogers' disappearance." This grotesque display of juvenile antics, amid 18 months of anguish for Sebastian's biological father, Seth Rogers, and dedicated volunteers, is nothing short of despicable, and reveals a man more invested in provocation than in seeking justice for a missing child. His behavior speaks volumes and proves yet another mistake in the FBI's latest release, painting him as a victim of tragedy when in reality, it showcases a pattern of callousness, alleged abuse, and obstruction that demands immediate scrutiny and accountability. We are appalled by this heartless farce, which not only inflicts additional torment on those tirelessly searching, but also erodes public trust in the investigation. Chris Proudfoot must be held responsible for turning a family's heartbreak into his personal circus, and we call on law enforcement to investigate this as potential interference or harassment. To the public, your tips and evidence are crucial. Continue flooding our secure channels with any footage, witnesses, or details related to this incident. At Night will relentlessly pursue the facts, exposing those who mock suffering while a boy remains lost. Justice for Sebastian cannot be derailed by such vile clownery.
Okay. Well, there we have it, folks. So, in my opinion, I think Christopher and Katie Proudfoot are both suspects and guilty of Sebastian's case. And Seth had nothing to do with it. That's what I believe. Does anyone here have an opinion on who they think is involved with this case? Like, who Like, who's guilty, who's not guilty? Who do you guys think? And also, for those in the bushes watching, please click the thumbs up. And also, like and subscribe if you haven't. If you're new here and just checking out my channel, please, it would be very much appreciated. And it will, and plus it's for the YouTube algorithm as well. And I am so thankful for my subscribers so far, and my moderators and everyone who's in chat and my subscribers. And also, before we end this out, I'm going to bring someone out to say hi to you guys. Here's Mr. Otis.
Hi, Otis.
Yeah, Otis, say hi. Anyone who's watching. This is Otis. Here, you say hi. You wiggle your nose. Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. Do you hear Jacob's voice?
Hello, Otis.
Do you hear Jacob's voice? Yeah. Oh, who was that? Yeah. So, you guys, there's Otis, my
Cute
precious
boy.
baby boy. Yeah, that's a good boy. He wanted to say hi to you guys. Good boy, Otis. He just wanted to come out of his cage to say hi to you guys. Say what's up. What's up, everyone? I'm gonna become a movie star. But yes, anyone who's watching in the bushes, please click the thumbs up and get it out in the YouTube algorithm. And also, thank you to my subscribers and my moderators and whoever's been in chat. And I appreciate everything here. And until next time, folks, peace.
Thank you for the live, DJ. You did a good job.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.